Imagine this. The year is 1119. A small brotherhood of knights kneels in silence before a crumbling altar in Jerusalem. Their armor gleams in the candlelight, but their mission is cloaked in shadows. They call themselves the Poor Fellow, soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, what history remembers as the Knights Templar. The year is 1119. Jerusalem is a city scarred by war, its streets echoing with the footsteps of crusaders, pilgrims and merchants. The First Crusade had ended just 2 decades earlier in rivers of blood, and Christian control of the city was fragile at best. Pilgrims streamed in from across Europe to walk in the footsteps of Christ, but the roads to the holy places were treacherous. Bandits, hostile warlords, and hidden dangers lurked behind every dune and along every mountain pass. Into this chaos rode a small band of knights. They were not kings, nor princes, nor men of wealth. They were 9 warriors, led by a French knight named Hugues de Payens. Their armour was simple, their numbers laughably small, yet they carried within them a purpose greater than themselves. They swore an oath before the Patriarch of Jerusalem to protect pilgrims and to defend the holy city in the name of Christ. And yet, from the very beginning, the story does not add up. 9 knights alone could never guard thousands of pilgrims travelling dangerous roads. Their presence was symbolic, not practical. So why then did King Baldwin II of Jerusalem grant them not only his blessing, but also quarters in one of the holiest and most strategic sites in all the world? The ruins of Solomon's temple itself, perched on the sacred Temple Mount. This is where history begins to whisper. For nearly a decade, the knights did not ride out on great campaigns, nor did they lead heroic charges in the name of God. Instead, they vanished into silence. They occupied the Temple Mount, and there, beneath its crumbling stones, they began to dig, day after day, year after year, tunneling deep into the earth, searching for something. But what? Contemporary chroniclers offered no explanations. The silence is almost deafening, as though an entire decade of the Templars' history was erased. And yet, when they finally emerged from this period of secrecy, everything had changed. The once obscure group of 9 knights suddenly rose to fame. Hugues de Payens travelled to Europe, meeting kings, nobles, and even the Pope himself. The order was officially recognized by the Church. They were granted privileges no other knights possessed: exemption from taxes, freedom from the authority of local bishops, and the right to cross borders at will. Money began pouring in from every corner of Christendom. Castles were donated, lands were gifted, entire fortunes transferred to their control. Within a generation, they were not just knights. They were a multinational force of wealth, secrecy and influence. How could such a transformation occur so quickly? Some say it was divine providence. Others suggest political maneuvering. But a darker, more tantalizing possibility lingers, that in those silent years beneath the Temple Mount, they discovered something. Legends claim that the Temple Mount was more than just rubble. It had once been the site of Solomon's temple, where the Ark of the Covenant itself may have rested. Could the Templars have unearthed sacred relics? Perhaps scrolls containing ancient Hebrew wisdom, or even treasures hidden away during the Babylonian destruction of the temple centuries before Christ. One medieval text, written centuries later, hinted that the Templars found fragments of the wisdom of Solomon. Another whispered that they had uncovered maps, records of lands far to the south, deep in Egypt, where even older secrets lay buried. Whether fact or legend, one thing is certain: when the Templars emerged from their silence, they were no longer merely knights. They had become custodians of something greater than swords and shields. Their very symbols reflected this mystery. The order's seal depicted 2 knights riding on a single horse, a symbol of poverty, yes, but also of unity, duality, and hidden meaning. Their red cross, sewn onto white mantles, was more than decoration. It became a mark of divine sanction, feared by enemies and revered by allies, but hidden within their architecture, their rituals, and their codes are symbols scholars still debate today, symbols that seem to echo not just Christian faith, but something older, something closer to the mysteries of Egypt and the wisdom of forgotten ages. And so, from their humble beginnings, the Templars transformed into a force the world had never seen before. They were warriors, bankers, diplomats, builders, and, if the legends are true, guardians of secrets buried deep beneath holy ground. But the question remains, what was it that they found in those tunnels? Was it the Ark itself, whose power could smite armies and shatter walls? Was it the fabled treasures of Solomon, wealth enough to buy kingdoms? Or was it knowledge, a body of secret wisdom, so profound that it elevated their order beyond mere mortals, setting them apart from the kings and popes they would one day rival in power? The silence of history offers no clear answer, but the sudden and meteoric rise of the Templars is difficult to explain by ordinary means. Something lit the fire that transformed them from 9 obscure knights into the most powerful brotherhood of the Middle Ages. And perhaps the most tantalizing clue is this whispers of their discoveries point not only to Jerusalem but beyond, to Egypt, the land of the pharaohs, where monuments older than Solomon's temple pierced the sky, to the pyramids and the Sphinx, guardians of mysteries even the ancients could not fully explain. Could it be that what the Templars found beneath the Temple Mount was not an end, but a beginning, a key, a clue, a fragment that pointed them toward the sands of Egypt? If so, their story was only just beginning. For while kings and popes saw them as knights, and pilgrims saw them as protectors, the Templars may have been something far stranger, seekers of knowledge, seekers of power, seekers of truths buried for millennia. And it is in Egypt, the land of eternal stone and eternal silence, that their path may have led them next. But that is where the shadows deepen, and where the mystery becomes darker still. The Templars had risen from obscurity to power with astonishing speed. From 9 knights digging beneath the Temple Mount, they had become an order spanning continents, commanding castle armies and fortunes. But behind the armour, behind the public vows of poverty and piety, shadows stretched across their story. For in the whispered traditions of the Middle Ages, there are hints that the Templars' quest did not end beneath Solomon's temple, that what they found there was only a beginning, a fragment pointing toward something even older, even more mysterious, toward Egypt, the land of the pharaohs. To medieval minds, Egypt was no ordinary kingdom. It was a place wrapped in myth, feared and admired in equal measure. The Old Testament spoke of its plagues, its idols, its pharaohs who defied the God of Israel. The Greeks centuries later told of Egypt as the cradle of knowledge, a land where priests preserved sciences and secrets from the dawn of time. Geometry, medicine, astronomy, and alchemy all were said to have their roots on the banks of the Nile, and by the time of the Crusades, these stories had grown into legends, stories of hidden chambers beneath the pyramids, stories of treasures sealed away when Moses led the Israelites to freedom, stories of scrolls so ancient they spoke of civilizations lost before the flood. Is it so hard to imagine, then, that the Templars, seekers of hidden truths, would have turned their eyes southward? Some later traditions claim exactly that members of the order made secret journeys into Egypt, not as invaders, they were far too few for conquest, but as travelers, explorers, perhaps even initiates into mysteries older than Christendom itself. But what exactly might they have sought? One legend speaks of a hidden library buried beneath the sands, a collection of writings preserved from the time of Thoth. the Egyptian god of wisdom. In this tale, the Templars uncovered fragments of those texts, manuals of geometry, sacred writings, perhaps even rituals meant to bridge the gap between mortal and divine. Another story connects the Templars with the Great Pyramid of Giza. Medieval chroniclers noted that Arab scholars of the time spoke of the pyramids not merely as tombs, but as vaults built to safeguard knowledge against the flood of Noah. Some claimed the pyramids contained star maps, machines of strange power, and treasures of forgotten dynasties. Could the Templars have ventured into these monuments, guided by maps or secrets uncovered in Jerusalem? And then there is the Sphinx, the silent guardian of the desert. Even in the 12th century, it was a mystery half buried in sand. To this day, radar scans have revealed unexplained cavities beneath its pores, as though chambers lie hidden beneath. Esoteric traditions suggest that the Templars were among the first to uncover these chambers, retrieving relics or scrolls that had survived since Egypt's Golden Age. But if the Templars did seek such things, what drove them? Perhaps the answer lies in the duality of their order. Outwardly, they were warriors of Christ, sworn to defend pilgrims and wage holy war. Inwardly, they may have been seekers of wisdom. See men who believed that true power lay not in swords, but in knowledge that transcended kingdoms and religions. And here lies the paradox: the church that blessed them also feared them. For what the Templars pursued was dangerous. To the medieval church, knowledge outside Scripture was often heresy. The idea that ancient Egyptians or any pagan civilization could hold truths valuable to Christians would have been scandalous. And yet, hidden in their privileges, the Templars were free to explore. They owed allegiance to no king, no bishop. They answered only to the Pope, and even he may not have known the full extent of their quests. So the whispers continued. Some claimed that the Templars returned from Egypt with treasures beyond imagining, gold jewels, statues of forgotten gods. But others insisted that their true prize was far less tangible knowledge, chemical formulas, geometric principles, star charts, and hidden laws of the universe. And here is where the story turns even more mysterious. When we look at the architecture sponsored by the Templars, strange patterns emerge. Their churches often used round designs, echoing not only the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, but also ancient Egyptian solar temples. Their seals and symbols are filled with geometry, triangles, circles, and crosses that bear uncanny resemblance to Egyptian and Hermetic motifs. Could these have been mere coincidence, or traces of something they had absorbed from their journeys? Even the Freemasons, who rose centuries after the Templars' fall, claim inheritance from them, and their rituals overflow with Egyptian imagery, pyramids, the all-seeing eye. The concept of hidden knowledge passed from master to initiate. Is this simply myth layered upon myth, or a shadow of the Templars' Egyptian connection, preserved in secret brotherhoods long after their public order was destroyed? And yet, as fascinating as the legends are, history itself keeps its silence. No chronicles describe a Templar caravan marching into Cairo. No papal records accuse them of trafficking with Egyptian priests. If these journeys happened, they left no official trace. But perhaps that silence is the strongest clue of all, for consider this: when King Philip IV of France later moved against the Templars, his accusations were not of theft or treason alone. They were stranger. He accused them of worshipping idols, of spitting upon the cross, of practicing rites in secret. Tortured knights confessed, sometimes truthfully, sometimes under duress, that the order had knowledge forbidden to Christians. Could these charges have been twisted echoes of what the Templars had truly found? Knowledge from Egypt that the Church dared not admit existed? If so, the Templars' search in Egypt was not about treasure chests or golden statues. It was about power, not the power of armies, but of ideas, power hidden in geometry, in astronomy, in the understanding of cycles of time, life and death. Power that could elevate those who possessed it far beyond ordinary men. And so the whispers endure, that beneath the desert sands, beneath stone pores and towering pyramids, the Templars uncovered something they could never reveal publicly. A truth too dangerous for their time, but that was only the beginning. For the greatest mystery of all is not whether they went to Egypt, but whether they found the one place that has haunted seekers for centuries, the hidden chambers said to lie beneath the Sphinx itself. And if they did, what was waiting there, sealed away for thousands of years? That, dear listener, is where the story now leads us. The desert night is silent, broken only by the whispering wind that sweeps across the Giza plateau. In the moonlight, the great Sphinx rises like a sentinel carved from eternity itself, half lion, half man. Its eyes stare eastward, as though forever watching the horizon where the sun is reborn each morning. For thousands of years it has stood in silence, its origins cloaked in mystery. But beneath its stone pores, legends claim, lie chambers that could hold secrets beyond imagination. It is here some whisper that the Knights Templar may have found what they were truly searching for. To the medieval world, the Sphinx was already an enigma. Ancient Arab historians wrote of hidden passages and sealed chambers beneath its massive form. Stories circulated of treasures buried there to protect them from thieves and invaders. Some claimed that statues of golden scrolls of forgotten wisdom lay hidden deep underground. Others spoke of strange machines left by an earlier civilization, capable of wonders beyond the imagination of medieval men. Even today, modern science has confirmed part of the legend. In the 1990s, ground-penetrating radar scans conducted by Egyptian and American researchers revealed unexplained cavities beneath the Sphinx, rectangular voids perfectly shaped, lying just beneath the massive stone pores. What lies within them remains unexcavated, sealed away by both the sands of time and the reluctance of modern authorities to disturb the monument. If such cavities exist today, they may well have existed in the 12th century when the Templars were at the height of their power. Could they have known of them? Could they have entered? The possibility seems remote at first. After all, the Sphinx was already half buried in sand during the Middle Ages. But here we must remember the Templars were not mere warriors. They were connected to scholars, mystics and travellers. Through trade routes and alliances, they may have gained knowledge from Arab scholars who preserved fragments of Egypt's ancient past. Such men may have guided the Templars toward hidden entrances known only through rumour and forgotten manuscripts. And if the Templars reached these chambers, what might they have found? The most enduring legend speaks of the Hall of Records, a mythical library said to preserve the wisdom of a civilization long lost. Some claim it was Atlantis. Others say it was Egypt itself from a time before the pharaohs. Scrolls of geometry, astronomy, medicine, and alchemy, knowledge that could alter the destiny of humanity, were said to lie hidden beneath the Sphinx. Imagine for a moment a night descending into darkness, torchlight flickering against walls carved with horrors no European could yet read. Imagine the chests not of gold but of brittle papyrus covered in strange symbols. Imagine diagrams of stars, maps of forgotten lands, formulas and rituals that hinted at powers forbidden to Christendom. To a medieval mind, such things would have been both wondrous and terrifying. They would have seemed like sorcery, dangerous knowledge that had survived floods, empires, and the turning of ages. And perhaps this explains the strange transformation of the Templars. After their silent years, they emerged not only as warriors, but as builders, bankers, and organizers of incredible complexity. They mastered architecture, raising round churches and fortresses whose precision echoed ancient geometries. They devised financial systems so advanced that they resemble modern banking. Where did this sudden sophistication come from? Was it simply European ingenuity, or could it have been informed by fragments of wisdom found beneath Egyptian stone? But the story does not end with practical knowledge, for the Sphinx itself carries a deeper symbolism, one that would not have been lost on the Templars. The lion's body represents strength, the guardian of mysteries. The human face represents wisdom, the higher self, the eternal search for truth. Together they form a symbol of transformation, the fusion of animal and divine, mortal and eternal. Is it coincidence that later esoteric traditions linked to the Templars, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, embraced similar symbols? The idea of guardianship, of hidden chambers, of initiation through secrecy. It is as if the Sphinx became not just a monument, but a metaphor for the order itself, silent, watching, guarding secrets buried beneath its surface. And then there are the whispers of power. Some traditions suggest that beneath the Sphinx lay not only knowledge, but relics. Crystals that could harness energy, artifacts that could heal, objects infused with the spiritual force of the ancients. These claims are, of course, speculative, but they echo the accusations hurled against the Templars centuries later that they worshipped strange idols, that they possessed objects of power, that they performed secret rites far from the eyes of the Church. Could these accusations have been distorted echoes of truths the Templars brought back from Egypt? Consider this. When the Templars were eventually arrested in 1307, one of the charges against them was the worship of a mysterious head, sometimes called Baphomet. What was this head? A false idol, as the Church insisted? Or could it have been a relic, a carved head from Egypt, perhaps even from beneath the Sphinx? If so, it would explain why the Templars kept it hidden, showing it only in secret rituals. And here lies the chilling thought. If the Templars did indeed uncover chambers beneath the Sphinx, if they carried relics or scrolls back to Europe, then those treasures did not vanish with them. They may still exist scattered among hidden vaults, preserved by successor groups, or buried once more, waiting for discovery, for the desert keeps its secrets. Today, the Sphinx still gazes silently toward the east, its stone lips closed, its mysteries untold. Archaeologists argue, scholars debate, tourists marvel. But the chambers remain sealed, and the question lingers, was the Sphinx simply a monument to the pharaohs, or a vault designed to guard the wisdom of the ancients until the right seekers came along? If the Templars were those seekers, may have been the first in centuries to pierce its silence, and what they found there may have shaped not only their destiny, but the destiny of the world. But the story does not end here, for if the Templars did indeed uncover secrets beneath the Sphinx, then we must ask what became of them. How did they guard this knowledge? And how did it survive the destruction of their order? That answer lies in the next chapter, where the fall of the Templars revealed that their greatest treasure was not gold, but something far more elusive, something that could never be destroyed. The rise of the Knights Templar had been nothing short of meteoric. From 9 obscure knights in Jerusalem, they had become one of the most powerful institutions in all of Christendom. They owned vast estates across Europe. They controlled fleets of ships that sailed from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. They created a financial system so advanced that kings themselves borrowed from it. And that power, as history so often teaches, invited envy. At the dawn of the 14th century, the throne of France was occupied by King Philip IV, Philip the Fair. To his subjects, he appeared regal, dignified, a ruler of quiet strength, but behind the crown was a man desperate, burdened by debts he could not repay. His wars, his extravagance, and his relentless ambition had drained the royal treasury, and much of that debt was owed to the Templars. The king looked upon their wealth and saw not allies but rivals. He saw an order too independent, too powerful, and far too untouchable. The Templars answered only to the Pope. They stood outside the reach of his laws, and so Philip resolved to destroy them. On a fateful day, Friday, October 13, 1307, the trap was sprung. Across France, royal officers swept into Templar commanderies. Knights were seized from their beds, dragged into prisons, and placed under brutal interrogation. The charges against them shocked the world: heresy, blasphemy, idolatry, secret rituals whispered in the dark. They were accused of denying Christ, of spitting upon the cross, of worshipping a mysterious head. Some called it Baphomet. Under torture, confessions spilled forth, though their truth remains doubtful. Men broken upon the rack will say anything to end their suffering, yet the sheer strangeness of the accusations makes one wonder, were they merely lies forced by pain or distorted echoes of something the Templars truly practiced? For centuries, scholars have puzzled over the charge of the mysterious head. Was it a demonic idol, as the Church claimed, or was it a relic? Perhaps even one of the artifacts they uncovered in Jerusalem or Egypt. Could the fabled head have been a fragment of a statue from the Sphinx, or a preserved relic from an Egyptian tomb? Something so alien to medieval eyes that it could only be condemned as sorcery we cannot know. But we do know this: when the king's men stormed the Templars' Parisian headquarters, they expected to find vast treasure. They found nothing. The vaults were empty. The chests of gold, the relics, the rumoured scrolls, all had vanished. And so began one of the greatest mysteries in history. What happened to the Templar treasure? Some say it was smuggled away in the night before the arrests, loaded onto wagons that disappeared into the countryside. Others claim the Templars' fleet slipped quietly from the port of La Rochelle, vanishing across the seas. There are legends that the treasure reached Scotland, where it was hidden in Rosslyn Chapel. Others insist it sailed to Portugal, where the order was reborn under a new name, the Knights of Christ. But there are darker whispers still that the treasure was not gold at all, that the true legacy of the Templars was knowledge. Knowledge of geometry, of alchemy, of secret sciences passed from the ancients, knowledge perhaps discovered in the sands of Egypt, preserved in scrolls and relics, guarded in silence. If this was their treasure, it could not be seized by soldiers or melted down by kings. It could only be hidden, encoded in symbols, concealed in architecture, passed on through secret brotherhoods. And so, some believe, the Templars' wisdom survived their destruction, flowering later in groups such as the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. But in 1307, none of that was yet visible. What the world saw was the slow destruction of the order. For 7 long years, trials dragged on. Some knights broke under torture and confessed. Others held firm, proclaiming their innocence until flames consumed them. In 1312, Pope Clement V, under pressure from Philip, officially dissolved the order. And then, in 1314, came the final act. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Templars, was led to the stake on an island in the River Seine. He was an old man by then, weary, betrayed by the church he had served. Bound in chains, he was burned alive before the eyes of the king's men. But before the flames consumed him, he spoke words that still echo through history. He cursed the king and the pope, summoning them to appear before God within a year. And, as legend has it, both Philip and Clement died within that time. The Templars were gone, their castles confiscated, their knights scattered, their name forever blackened by charges of heresy. But their secrets, whatever they had uncovered in Jerusalem and Egypt, did not vanish. They slipped into silence. Some say fragments of their wisdom were hidden in cathedrals, encoded in stained glass and stone carvings. Some say their manuscripts were passed to secret societies that carried them forward in whispers and symbols. and some even claim that their treasure lies still buried in vaults beneath Rosslyn Chapel, Oak Island, or other places touched by legend. But perhaps the greatest secret of all lies not in treasure chests or hidden tunnels, but in the idea that the Templars uncovered something humanity was not ready to face, something that kings and popes could never allow to surface, something that had to be sealed away again, just as it had been hidden beneath the sands of Egypt. And here is the paradox. The Templars fell because of their power. See, but their power may not have been wealth alone. It may have been knowledge, knowledge so profound it could not be destroyed by fire or sword, knowledge that slipped through the cracks of history, waiting for the right moment to resurface. As the flames consumed Jacques de Molay, the great Sphinx still watched silently across the desert, its secret sealed. The knights who may have descended into its chambers were gone, but the knowledge they carried, if indeed they carried it, remained in shadows. And so the question lingers, what legacy did the Templars truly leave behind? Was it their castles, their military glory, their innovations in banking? Or was it something far more elusive, something born in Jerusalem and completed in Egypt, preserved not in the pages of history, but in the hidden currents of myth and symbol? The answer perhaps lies not in what was destroyed, but in what survived. That brings us to the final chapter, where reflection and mystery intertwine, and we confront the possibility that the Templars' true treasure still waits for discovery. The story of the Knights Templar does not end with their downfall. In truth, their destruction in the 14th century was not a conclusion, but a transformation. History tells us their order was dissolved, their leaders executed, their lands divided among rival powers. Yet history also tells us that something about the Templars refused to die. Like a flame smothered under ashes, their legend kept burning. Whispers of hidden treasure, secret teachings, and sacred relics clung to their name long after their banners had been torn down. From the silent cloisters of medieval monasteries to the great cathedrals of Europe, from the Masonic lodges of the Enlightenment to the vaults of secret societies, the Templars' shadow moved quietly, reshaping itself again and again. And at the heart of this shadow lay Egypt. Why Egypt? Because Egypt was the cradle of the mysteries. Even in antiquity, the Greeks called it the land of hidden wisdom. The Pythagoreans, the Hermeticists, the Neoplatonists all traced their knowledge back to the priests of the Nile. The Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the labyrinths of long-forgotten temples, these were not merely ruins to the ancients. They were libraries of stone, encoded with secrets too vast for parchment. If the Templars truly ventured beneath the sands, as legend suggests, then perhaps they did not find gold at all. Perhaps they found fragments of that ancient science, scrolls whispering of geometry and the stars, texts describing the passage of the soul and the architecture of eternity. Relics whose purpose we still do not understand. Imagine it, 9 knights, standing in the flickering torchlight of a chamber sealed for millennia, brushing sand from a stone chest, unrolling a scroll written in a script older than Latin, older than Greek, a scroll that spoke of cycles of time, of civilizations rising and falling, of truths too unsettling for the medieval world. Is it any wonder they became so powerful so quickly? But if such knowledge was gained, it had to be protected, for knowledge can be more dangerous than any sword. Knowledge can challenge kings, undermine faith, destabilize empires. Perhaps this is why the Templars kept their secrets bare, buried behind layers of ritual and oath. And perhaps this is why, when the order fell, the truth did not vanish. It simply went underground. Consider the cathedrals of Gothic Europe, rising skyward like frozen hymns in stone, their soaring arches, their stained glass windows that bathe interiors in shifting light, Their cryptic carvings, many historians see them as engineering marvels born of medieval genius. But others suggest something more, that hidden in their design are echoes of Egyptian geometry, proportions that mirror the pyramids, alignments that speak of celestial knowledge the Church itself could not openly endorse. Was this the Templars' way of encoding what they had discovered, to hide truths in plain sight, carved into the very bones of Europe's sacred architecture? And then there are these secret societies that rose centuries later, the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the countless esoteric brotherhoods that spoke of hidden wisdom, of ancient mysteries preserved in silence. Many trace their lineage, sometimes directly, sometimes symbolically, back to the Templars. Was this merely myth making, or was it continuity? Did the spark of knowledge that may have been uncovered in Egypt pass quietly, hand to hand, through generations sworn to secrecy? The question is as unanswerable as it is irresistible. For every clue that suggests a hidden truth, there is a silence that deepens the mystery. For every legend of treasure, there is a reminder that no gold was ever found. For every accusation of heresy, there is the possibility that what the Templars knew simply could not be explained in the language of medieval faith. And so the story lingers, not in certainties, but in shadows. Perhaps that is why it continues to fascinate us, because mysteries endure not when they are solved, but when they remain just beyond our grasp. Think of the image of Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, standing in the flames. Around him, the world believed the order was finished. Yet he looked beyond his tormentors, beyond the river, beyond the city, and he spoke words of a curse, a prophecy of reckoning. That prophecy may not have been meant only for king and pope. Perhaps it was for all of history. See, a reminder that the Templars' true legacy could never be burned away. And if that legacy is bound to Egypt, then we are left with a haunting thought: the sound still holds secrets waiting. Chambers still lie sealed, corridors still undiscovered. Modern scans of the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx reveal anomalies, hollow spaces no one has yet entered. Could it be that the Templars touched what we have yet to see, that they glimpsed knowledge still locked away from us? The silence of the desert does not answer. The Sphinx stares eastward, as it has for thousands of years, impassive, eternal. And so we are left with questions. Did the Templars find in Egypt the lost teachings of the ancients? Did they carry that wisdom across Europe, shaping architecture, finance, and philosophy in ways we barely recognize? Did their secrets survive their destruction, passed into secret societies that still whisper of them today? Or is it all myth, a dream conjured by our need to believe in hidden truths, in forgotten legacies, in mysteries greater than ourselves? Perhaps the answer lies not in history, but in the way the story moves us. The Templars are more than knights in white mantles, more than warriors or bankers. They are symbols of a question: what lies hidden beneath the surface of our world, waiting to be discovered. As you listen now, let that question linger. Imagine the cool sands of the Egyptian night, the moon casting silver light upon the pyramids. Imagine torches flickering in the hands of 9 wary knights, descending into darkness, knowing they are about to uncover something that will change them forever. The story may be lost to time, but the mystery remains. And perhaps that is the greatest treasure of all, because as long as we wonder, as long as we ask, as long as we dream of hidden chambers and secret scrolls, the Templars are not gone. Their legend still walks beside us, silent, mysterious, eternal. And so the tale closes not with an ending, but with an opening. The sands of Egypt wait. The Sphinx still watches. And the question endures: what did the Templars truly find?